Hi. In this video, I will be comparing 4 options for working with SVG icons. We'll find out which option provides the smallest output file size, build time, and development convenience. I set up 4 empty projects on Veet, then installed the corresponding modules and compiled the data. For icons, I used Material UI icons. The ready-made icon set is convenient for projects where custom design is not required. That is, like the entire Material UI library, these icons are conveniently used for admin panels. If you need a custom design, the icon set will likely be created by a designer. In this comparison, I will use the same Material UI icons in 4 variants. The difference is only that for the first option, I will install an NPM module, and for the others, I will download the same set but as SVG files, which will simulate custom icons of a real project. Note that the option with icons saved as a font is not considered here, as this approach is already outdated and not used. So, let's start with the option of using the Material UI NPM library. I am adding a set of icons to the page, importing all icons from the Material UI library, and displaying them on the page in a loop. In fact, icons in the library are exported as a set of JS files. Here is an example of some of them. Now, let's consider the option when simply connecting the library with icons is not enough. If you have a specific design and need to display your own icons, the standard solution would be using the SVG as a component approach. I added a plugin for Veet to make this approach work and placed all the icons here. Interestingly, here I ended up with 1.5 times more icons than in the NPM module, so I had to introduce additional calculations to compare the results. Simply put, I calculate the average value per 1 SVG file. Then I generated imports so that Veet would understand that these files need to call the SVGR plugin. Here's the resulting file. Note that with such a large number of icons, the project does not start in development mode. SVGR gives an error. It's unlikely you'll have that many icons in the project. This number is for testing. But after waiting 1.5 minutes for the build, I finally got my bundle and can now conduct a comparison, which I will talk about later. If your project also doesn't start in development mode, you will have to create a separate project, build it, and connect it as a module to the main project. The next option is SVG Sprite, the oldest but still relevant option. I used it in most of my projects and even wrote a module to simplify sprite generation and a file with constants. Like in the previous option, I placed all the icons here. Note that even copying icons took a very long time, much longer than build time. Next, I ran the sprite generation script, which generated this SVG sprite and a file with constants. As you can see, images of icons were immediately generated. When you hover, you see not only the name of the icon, but also how it looks. Next, I displayed all the icons in this way. The fourth option you might not have encountered anywhere. It occurred to me when I was browsing icon libraries. Usually, an icon in such libraries consists only of a path tag. Let's scroll through Material UI icons. Usually, it's just a path everywhere. Sometimes there are several paths, but they can be combined into one. There are icons with other tags, such as rect and circle, but all of them are easily transformed into path. And then I had a bold idea in the file with icon constants to store not the name of the icon, but the content of the D attribute of the path tag. Here's what came out of it. I wrote a small script which generated such a file. As you can see, sometimes the size of the icon name can be longer than the value of the D parameter. There's a small nuance. Some Material UI icons consist of semi-transparent elements. In this project, I just removed the transparency and merged it with the main path. Therefore, you can see that some icons are black where they should be semi-transparent. But for comparison, this is not so important. The main thing is that the SVG icons have retained all their significant elements, and transparency can be added using some special symbol. Now let's see how this looks in the browser. This is Material UI icons. Here, each SVG is inserted into the DOM tree. This is SVGR. I commented out most of the icons to start the project in development mode. As we can see, the result is similar to the previous option. This is SVG Sprite. Here, everywhere are inserted not the SVG files themselves, but references to them. The result of the SVG Paths project looks like this. You can see the problem with transparency, but as already mentioned, this can be fixed. Each SVG file has only one path. And here's how the icons are stored in the bundle after the build. Material UI icons. Here you can see that the main part consists of significant code and function names are minified, which would not be possible if we stored it in SVG format. SVGR. File slightly larger in size, as you can see that it is poorly minified and part of the file occupies function names and repeating attributes. Perhaps if you play around with the settings, it can be compressed. SVG Sprite. Actually, the XML format is not so compact. The file size is almost the same as SVGR, but both lose to a well-minified bundle from Material UI. Additionally, in the JS file, there is mapping to the icon ID in the sprite, which also increases the bundle size. SVG Paths constants. The result has the smallest size. This is understandable, since only the value of one attribute is used, not the whole SVG. Now let's look at the comparative table. Keep in mind that there are fewer Material UI icons. Therefore, Initially, it was not clear why Material UI has such a small bundle. It turned out that in the NPM library, there are only 10,000 out of 14,000. Therefore, in the table, it is important to pay attention to the average value per file. Regarding the build time of the project, the slowest result is at SVGR. It took 1.5 minutes to build 14,000 icons. Material UI. The result is tolerable. 10,000 icons were built in 20 seconds. SVG Sprite. The project built 14,000 icons in just 13 seconds, which turned out to be faster than the Material UI project. This is understandable, since the SVG Sprite file is already ready and does not need to be assembled each time. SVG Paths. The fastest option. It worked 4.5 times faster than Material UI. Now let's look at the coding convenience with each option. The SVG Sprite option is convenient in that, along with the sprite, a set of constants with JS documentation is generated where even the image of each icon is generated. This is convenient as there is no need to search for this file each time to see what the icon looks like. When using the SVGR plugin, we specify in the code when importing the path to the SVG file. Therefore, the development environment understands that this is a picture and shows its contents, as well as auxiliary information, such as size. This is even more convenient and organic than in other options. The Material UI option is the least convenient. The development environment only displays the names of the icons. To see what they look like, or to pick an icon, you have to open the list on the official website. The SVG Paths option can work the same way as the Sprite option. That is, nothing prevents us from running the script and generating documentation with the image of the icon. If this video gets at least 3 likes, I will write and publish this script on NPM. Perhaps it can be packaged as a Veet plugin. As you can see, each option has its pros and cons. I've highlighted the key points that will help you choose the most suitable option. Material UI icons have an optimal size and minimally affect build time. Although in the code, the image is not displayed, it's convenient to search for icons on the site. This is relevant not only for Material UI, but also for other libraries with a set of icons. Such an option is great if the provided set is enough and no custom icons are needed. The SVGR option is the slowest but convenient during coding. Today, it is the most standard way to use icons in a React project. The SVG Sprite option, although faster in build, requires running a script for sprite generation. It only needs to be run when changing icons. Although I often used the SVG Sprite option, but if you need the simplest option, I recommend choosing the SVGR plugin. The SVG Path option is very promising, especially if there is no transparency. It provides the smallest bundle size and is fast, as it does not require conversion during build. But you need to prepare SVGs so that there is only one path and adhere to the same viewport for all icons. This optimization can be done with a script based on the SVGO optimizer. Thank you all for your attention. Let me know in the comments what I missed and what other comparisons you'd like to see with these options.